Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to session number 6 of the 6 Weeks to Flexible Work and Life Success series. I'm Cali Yost, and this series is part of our broader ongoing effort to bring leaders, managers, teams, and individuals together to reimagine work and life through this COVID-19 crisis and beyond. Today, we are talking about the habits and moments that build a foundation of physical, mental, and emotional well-being that we all very much need right now and going forward. But before we get started, I want to say hi to my producer, Lauren. Hi, Lauren.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. So with that, let's get started talking about the habits and moments that build a foundation of physical, emotional, and mental well-being, which is so very critical right now. I'm hearing a lot about this, and that's why I wanted to make a specific session about this topic. And I think it's really important that we all start thinking about what we're doing. And that's what I want you to just take a few seconds to do. We're going to take a little pause here, and I want you to answer this question in the chat function. What is one physical, emotional, and/or mental well-being tweak that either is already or could be part of your quarantine daily routine right now? What could the one small meaningful priority related to your physical well-being, related to your emotional well-being, your mental well-being, what's that tweak that you could put into your routine right now that would help build that foundation of well-being? And I would like it if you could just please post 1, 2, 3 tweaks into the chat function at the end of this session. I'm now going to share a few things that I do, but I really want to hear what you're doing. This is really important, and we are going to have to inspire each other with ideas about what we can do. And I love hearing from other people. I'll share something I just actually learned today in terms of a tweak that I'm going to pursue. So while I ramble here a little tiny bit, I hope you have some time to put something in the chat function, and then we can get started with the rest of the session. So I'll give you a few seconds.
Kelly, we've got 2 so far, so that's great, but
All right,
we need a few
good.
more, I think.
Keep
Yeah.
going, because this is the stuff that matters. And don't worry if it's just the smallest thing. And as long as it's meaningful to you, that's what we want to hear. It's what is helping you be your best, feel your best in a really challenging time. And that's what we want to know. So start thinking. I'm already going to the next slide. What? Okay. So how are we doing, Lauren?
We're doing really well. We've got seven
right.
so far, so it's great.
Okay.
We've got some things moving here. It's great.
Okay, so I'm going to keep going because I clearly cannot get back to the slide. So, okay, so let's get started. Let's start with where we are in week 3 of this session. What we're finding is that the strict across the board safe at home mandates are indeed starting to lift in many places. And it's happening actually in places before they've often met the 14-day reduction in the number of cases of COVID-19. So this is happening, I think, a little faster than people thought it was going to. And as a result, workplaces are really having to formulate what this sort of next stage of reopening is going to look like. For those of you who had a chance to read my op-ed from last week in the USA Today, you're going to know I don't like that language, reopening. I think it is not true. We have not closed down. There indeed have been industries that have had to shut their doors, but tens and tens and tens of millions of people have pivoted on a dime and have managed to figure out a way to continue to work. So really what this is.
Callie, you're frozen. We lost your audio. Everybody hang in there. Usually comes back within 20 seconds, so let's give her a second.
Of the reopening process available
Callie,
to support.
Callie,
yes.
you froze. You froze.
I froze.
So
okay, where did I freeze?
Yeah. Right after the 14-day, so with workplaces beginning to formulate reopening strategy, we're talking about how you don't like that language.
Okay.
And then you froze.
Okay, great. Okay, so I don't like the language. I think it's more of an evolving, flexible new normal. And it's happening without any wide scale testing, contact tracing, or treatment. So, what that means is work flexibility really is the only piece of the reopening process available to support social distancing and to reduce exposure. And that includes the 45 million children who still remain out of school. So, this is where we are. And that means we are going to have this flexible new normal that is going to evolve and require us to respond in new and different ways, personally and professionally, for this foreseeable future. This is not something that's going to change overnight in terms of going back to some semblance of the way it was. This is going to be a marathon and not a sprint. So how do we maintain our physical, mental, and emotional well-being as we continue to have to reimagine work and life through this crisis, as we continue to keep it simple, as we start with where we are, it's about intention, not perfection, as we keep prioritizing, communicating, and then recalibrating and leveraging the learning to go to the next phase. Because again, strategic work flexibility is going to be necessary so that managers, teams, and individuals are leveraging how, when, and where they are able to work with strategic, coordinated intention, again, in this evolving, flexible normal that's just going to keep changing as the realities continue to force us to make new decisions so that we're able to do our jobs, achieve business goals, manage our lives, and rebuild the economic momentum in a health and safe way. So remember, with strategic work flexibility, it isn't just the infrastructure. It isn't just the technology and the workspace and the types of flexibility we can use. It really does require us to have that model, that foundation of cultural shared leadership where individuals, teams, and managers were all working together in order to leverage that infrastructure and to do all the things that we need to get done. And it's that model of shared leadership that we need to be part of in order to and bring our best that we can bring to that. So rule of thumb, which we've talked about before that I'm going to expand on, is the more extreme and disorienting the disruption in work at life, the more intentional and specific we want to become about our priorities, especially those related to physical, emotional, and mental well-being. And I found this interview that I did this past week with Whitney Johnson very insightful in terms of why this is so critical. She talks about this concept of the S curve of learning. And if you haven't had a chance to watch the interview that I did with Whitney, I urge you to do so because I actually picked her first for a reason. I reference this S curve of learning oftentimes in the change processes we do in organizations at the beginning. So people understand that it's going to feel uncomfortable, that it's going to be a little more difficult in the beginning because you're learning something new. And as I said, as I kicked off this entire series, essentially what happened with COVID-19 is that everybody was thrown immediately into a pilot of flexible and remote work. We were thrown into the deep end of working in a radically different way. And it's only been 7-8 weeks that we've been doing this. So everybody was thrown on this new S curve of learning, and we're now kind of at the bottom, moving our way slowly up the top. But what Whitney explains is that takes a lot of mental load. Being on this new curve, that you are having to adapt quickly and absorb new information and try new things, and you're not able to sort of resort back to your sort of standard automatic ways of doing things. You're really challenging a lot of just the way you're thinking and executing and coordinating with people, and that takes a lot. So even more so in this lower level of a curve as we're moving up as we are, this is why we have to be even more intentional and specific so that we can handle this new situation as best as we can. So I go back to my friends, the Work-Life Fit Naturals from Tweak It. And again, I learned so much from them in terms of how to be intentional, how to be very specific about what it is I wanted to get done at work and in my personal life. And even more so, I am even finding that the framework and process that they go through has been helpful to me in this very, very disruptive period of time. Now, we've talked about the quarantine daily routine framework, this simple framework to get started that we've adapted from the Tweak It practice from the book. And really, their secrets are as follows. You set those boundaries and intention by clarifying your expectations, the expectations at work that you have, the things that you need to get done at work, also the expectations for yourself and those around you and your family, making sure all those expectations are realistic based upon what's going on in a pandemic. Then once you have those expectations set, you clarify your priorities, those work priorities and personal priorities that you really do want to get done. And today, we're going to focus on the personal priorities around physical health, emotional, and mental well-being. But even those, then you want to determine how, when, and where you're going to do them best and with whom. Put them on your calendar, your combined calendar, be flexible, and celebrate success. But today I'm taking it to another level, okay? And I'm going to break it down even further for you based upon what I learned from the naturals. What I learned is it's not just about habits. Habits are really important, and I'm going to talk about some that I do, and I really want to hear the ones that you have found to be particularly helpful now. But what I learned from them is the moments are just as important. And we have to really be thoughtful and intentional about the moments that are coming up that we want to capture and make sure we make sure that they happen and really value them. Because these are the priorities that come along are not going to happen all the time. These are just the things that maybe are one-time things or maybe two-time things that are very, very important that, again, you want to make sure are part of your work-life fit, especially now, because these moments are even more important in terms of building that foundation. So what does that look like? Okay, so I'm going to tell you about how I am capturing moments over the next week. And I'll explain to you why they're so meaningful to me. So of course there's Mother's Day, right? Mother's Day is coming up on Sunday. I am a mother of 2 children, one of whom has gone back to college to finish up the last month of college in her off-campus house with a few of her friends who are being really good and quarantining together, but she wants to just enjoy that time because it's all she's going to have. So that means she can't hang out with me on Mother's Day, but she is going to Zoom in and we are going to have a Zoom family dinner, and we're going to just value this time together because it's been a pretty challenging couple of months for us as a family. We have been in temporary housing, very kind of close quarters in a temporary housing situation that we did not intend to be all together in, and we've hung in there and we've all been working together and we've done our remote learning, and we're really proud of ourselves as a family, and I'm really proud of my kids. So I'm making sure that Mother's Day is happening in a way that we can all be together, even if we can't be physically together. The next thing that's happening this week, which is super duper exciting, is the construction project that had started before the pandemic is now completed. So we're able to move back into our house actually starting later this afternoon and through the weekend. So what I am doing is I've put vacation on my calendar because it's hard right now. Where's vacation? Like, I have to do that so that I am going to go back to my house, get it set up again, get my home office set up again. And that's going to really help in terms of my emotional and mental well-being, is to know that all of that is now put back together. So again, putting that on my calendar, committing to that time so that I can make that happen. I'm also going to give a group of friends who have been particularly helpful to me and supportive during this period of time when my house is all pulled apart and I'm in a temporary space, and it's been a challenge, and a lot's been going on with work, which has been amazing and a wonderful opportunity to help people, but it's been a lot. And this group of friends has been really there for me. So I'm doing a Zoom tour to show them some of the construction that we did and let them know what it looks like, but also to just thank them for being such a wonderful support system to me. And then before I go to the next,
Okay, hold on, everybody. She's frozen again. I know we said we were gonna wrap up if it happened again, but but let's give this a couple more seconds for her to unfreeze. Hopefully we will get through the session. Let's give
They
her.
are,
Callie,
what?
you are frozen.
Oh no. When
Yeah,
did you,
right,
when did it freeze?
right when you move to the picture. So
Okay, so
just
we'll
start
keep
over from
going,
there.
and if I freeze again, I may
I
call it.
said,
We
I
may do it.
said, we'll keep moving and hopefully we'll get through it. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is a picture of my parents and my daughter. And this was a socially distancing graduation party we had with her last weekend. And they were very good. They stayed far away, but I could tell that it was bothering them, that this is starting to wear on them, having to be away from all their children and all their grandchildren. So what we're doing this week is my siblings, my 4 siblings and I, we are getting on a Zoom chat on Saturday, and we are going to try to figure out how we're going to coordinate with my parents going forward in a way that's safe for them and also, you know, obviously safe for us. And the point being, we're not in this alone, okay? And I said this in the beginning when I kicked off the series. One of the things that I learned from the naturals is you got to coordinate with people. You can't do this by yourself. So again, these are the moments in the coming week that I have put in my calendar, and I'm going to note this. Note, they're all in my calendar. Moments tend to have to go into the calendar. You will, if they don't, you won't do them. Now this compares to the habit. Oh, and I want to show you, this is another moment I just found today. I'm very excited about it. I didn't even have a chance to add it to my session, my sheet, because I just found it. I love museums. And there is this wonderful virtual hangout with the curator happening in the Frick collection on Friday nights. So I'm gonna actually call in on Friday night at 5 o'clock. I am gonna have cocktails with the curator to talk about a painting from the Frick that I actually have seen and I really like, and I would love to know more about it. So again, this is a moment that I'm gonna capture in my calendar and use that will make me feel great. Okay, so now we're gonna get to the habits. All right, habits, super important. And I'm going to share 2 habits with you I've done for 25 years that you've probably heard a lot about over the last few weeks because it is important and I'm glad people are talking about it. But I'm going to tell you why I did it, how I do it, and why it matters. And I hope it inspires you to consider doing these habits as well. So the first 2 I want to talk about are meditation and writing in my journal. I literally have done this for 25 years. And it all started when I got very sick, when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I got very ill with this mysterious, just all sorts of different issues around headaches and not feeling good and all these. Nobody could figure out what was going on. I went to many, many doctors. And all during this time, my mother kept saying to me, "Are you ready to talk about meditation? I think this is going to help you." And you see, my mother, through all of my growing up, had come home from work. She's a single mom. She had a long commute. She would come home from work, say to my sisters and I, "I'm going in my bedroom. I'm meditating for 15 minutes. I'll be out. And then we'll have dinner." Like, great. We used to laugh. We thought it was the craziest thing. And so for my mother to keep saying to me, "Do you want to meditate?" I was like, "No, I'm good. I'm fine." Well, finally, I just got so sick and nobody could tell me what was wrong with me that my mother said, "Are you finally ready to learn about meditation?" And I realized I was, because it was the only option I had. And it was all stress. Everything that was happening to me was related to stress. So I started meditating, and 25 years later, I can tell you it truly is the bedrock of it is a foundational bedrock of my wellness completely. So what I do is I sit down for 15 minutes a day and I essentially just breathe and I'm quiet. I don't do anything crazy. I don't do anything nutty. I just sit quietly and breathe. And then after that, I write in my journal just to sort of understand what it is that I was sensing or what came up in my meditation. I have 25 journals now over the course of all these years. And I will tell you, what meditation does for me, and I think in this period of time, it's really important, is it gives you a momentary choice point. It gives you like a nanosecond in your day to determine how you want to respond to something. So you can manage your state. It helps you stay connected to where you are in the present instead of just launching off into worry about the future and sort of kvetching about the past. It's easier to stay present and focused and in your most resourceful state, which we all need to be in. And interestingly enough, it's actually the reason I see all these things that I have been talking about for all these years. I swear it is the reason when I was still at the bank that I saw the folder in my desk that was getting thicker and thicker with articles about this new emerging field of work flexibility. And it's the reason when I was in my clients that I would see what the trends were and I would want to understand, and I could ascertain what's the next path where all of this was going. It is the reason I wrote my books. It honestly is truly such an important part of how I stay physically, emotionally, and even just spiritually aligned. So I urge you to give this a shot. What you see here is my current journal and my candle. I have a candle that I light, but it really isn't hard, but you just have to get started. And I'm going to share with you the book my mom shared with me. So my mom handed me this book when she said, "Are you ready to learn to meditate?" And I had probably given it to 1,000 people over the course of the last 25 years. And I'll tell you why I love it. Joan Borisenko is a doctor. She is a medical doctor, and she explains to you from a medical perspective what happens to you when you meditate. And it worked for me. It helped me understand the concept a little bit better than just, oh, I have to breathe. I understood what was going on because of the act of meditating. So if you feel so moved, get this book. But I don't get anything for this book. But please feel free to get it. There are a lot of great apps out now, things that weren't there 25 years ago. But this is really the foundational habit of my well-being. The way I stay is my healthy best self, especially now in this crazy situation in temporary space and all of that. It has been invaluable. All right, so those are my two habits. The other habit I now have adopted pretty religiously is this walk that we do at the end of the day. I do it with my family. I have it in my calendar. Now you're going to see there's one check mark with habits. Okay, there's a reason for that. So in that particular habit, I need to put it in my calendar because it marks sort of the end of my day, and it's kind of new. It's a new habit, so I'm not used to it yet. So it's not automatic. Now you're going to see meditate and journal. I don't even need to put it in my calendar because I just do it. I get up, I do it. It's not a second thought. But this walk, that's something new. Now, the other thing I do on a regular basis is I always have a book in my Kindle and a podcast in my podcast queue that is inspirational. So right now I'm listening to Sugar Calling, the Cheryl Strayed podcast from the New York Times. She's interviewing all these authors about what's inspiring them, and it's just a fantastic podcast. I'm enjoying it. But then I'm reading, and I'm forgetting, I get the name wrong. It's the book about Winston Churchill in the Blitz. It's like the vial and I can't remember the other part of it, but it's really similar to what's going on now. And you sort of get inspired to see like people made it through that period and how he led and what that looked like. So again, I always have a book and a podcast in my queue that I have my ear pods charged and I have them in. And if I'm able to listen, I do. And it just is a little bit of a boost for the day. And finally, as you guys know, my flowers by my bed, and that is my other habit. So these are my moments and my habits that are part of my foundation of physical, emotional, and mental well-being. So with that, I would love to hear yours. What are you guys doing? Let's inspire each other. So Lauren, what do we got?
Okay, well, first of all, Sarah was very nice to clarify the name of the book is The Splendid in the Vial.
Oh, The Splendid in the Vial. That's why I don't get it, because I always lead with the vial. And then I'm like, there's nothing after the vial, because it's The Splendid in the Vial. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Right.
It's
so
a
Sarah,
fantastic book, by the way. Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, Sarah also added some of the tweaks she does. Put away laptop out of view after workday is done. That's one thing she says she does.
Mm-hmm.
And she also added gratitude practice to every evening.
Oh, great.
Okay, so then there's also Londa, who said, ensuring some structure to my day. One key thing has been building in some quiet time in the morning before starting work for reflection and exercise.
Yep. That's great.
Then we have Lillian, who woke up before everyone else in the household, pray, read Bible, exercise.
Yep. Yeah.
We have Joanne says a couple of two things. First one is exercise, walks, live stream classes, and on demand. If I go a couple of days in a row without it, I'm crankier. And
Hmm.
secondly, keeping COVID journal to make sure the days don't melt away without remember what day each day was about.
Yes, that's, oh, I love that. Okay.
Sarah added another one, shower and dress for work, even casually every day.
Hmm.
Sherry wrote, unplug at lunch and go for a walk.
That's
Linda
great.
wrote, short breathing exercises through the day. And Diana said, daily exercise, especially if it is outside. And we have another one from Diana, moments have been scheduling time and activities with my husband.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
That's great.
those are great. We got lots
Those
of
are,
good responses.
yeah. And you know, I think the theme that I hear there is the quiet, you know, that you'd think, right, that we're all sort of sheltering in place or, you know, safe at home. You'd like, well, I wouldn't want more quiet. It's like, but I think people are really finding peace in the quiet and finding and connecting to what really is important to them. And I think that's terrific. That is great. And the exercise just can't, yeah, you can't say enough of that. But I think it's interesting, Joanne, and the journaling around remembering this moment and how you felt. Because this is really, this is unprecedented, and we are going to want to look.
Okay, Callie is frozen again. We're almost at the end. So again, she seems to be unfreezing in about 20 seconds. So let's just give it a minute. If you have to drop off, thank you for joining us, but I will, I think she'll probably wrap up in a few seconds when she unfreezes. So,
Oh, here I
oh,
am.
yep,
Here I
you,
am.
okay,
Are they?
you froze
When did I freeze?
right after Joanne, talking about Joanne's COVID
Oh,
journal.
I was just saying, I think we are going to want to look back on it and reflect and remember what it was like. This is unprecedented. So, are there any others, Lauren?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, those were great. And again, just continue to just do the things that make you feel great and be as intentional as you can. I actually personally think this is going to be one of the ultimate things that continue after we've come out the other side is I think people are going to be a lot more mindful about what they need to be their best selves and feel their best. And so I think that's going to be a positive to come out of all of this. Well, thank you all for sharing. You've inspired me. I'm thinking a little bit now about what I could do in addition to what I'm already doing. So thank you. Okay, so what are we doing next week in week 4? We are going to continue to reimagine work and life through crisis. And I have interviewed Sarah Milstein, who is the Senior Director of Engineering for MailChimp. And she has got vast experience managing distributed teams. And she shares fantastic advice related to how to engage a distributed team, how to measure performance, and how to really have that trust that's so key. We're going to start sharing that tomorrow, actually, through the next week. So check in on the social media, but also you'll see it up on YouTube and you can listen to my interview with Sarah, who, by the way, was on a walking treadmill while we were talking. So she was being quite efficient in terms of getting her walk in while we were talking. So she's really inspirational. She's a great, great person. And then next Tuesday, are you ready to level up? Because this is about, we're kind of in week 7, week 8 for some people of this sort of safe at home mandate where we were thrown into the deep end and sort of you're past the kind of getting your bearings stage. And I'm hearing more and more people are kind of up in their game. And I'll share some of the stories that I'm hearing, but I want to hear from you. How are you leveling up? And very specifically, I'm hearing it related to how people are communicating and coordinating. So, or anything else you want to talk about how you've leveled it up, I think we're there. So let's talk about what that can look like. And then on Thursday, we're going to go specifically to caregiving. I'm going to talk about how you care for, coordinate with those you love and live with. This is really a challenge, especially for parents right now, and actually caregivers, elder caregivers. I'm not going to give you answers. I am going to share 3 resources I think are really helpful to help you have answers, but I'd love to hear what you're doing. Again, this is one of those interactive ones. And now that I'm a little nervous about the technology just because it keeps freezing, but maybe we'll try an open Q&A next week around these 2 topics on Tuesday and Thursday and see how it goes. So with that, I thank you all. Remember, it's all at the Flex Strategy Group, COVID-19. And if there's any other questions, Lauren, no?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I can't sign off without going to my friend Rosie. And this is not easy. This is a really unprecedented time. Hopefully today you've come away with some ideas to build that foundation of physical, emotional, and mental well-being as we go through this period, because it's going to be a while. It's a marathon. This is not a sprint, and we are going to have to continually respond to these evolving shifts and how, when, and where we're managing all of this. But you know what? We can do it. We really, really can, and we are doing it, and that's what matters. So yay to you all. Thank you again, and I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and remember to join me next week. I hope to see you then. Thank you very much.